asking some tough questions coming up into our next session. We've got 3 funders for you who are used to getting pitched on the latest, greatest innovation. I'm going to get them up one first of all, and then we'll have 2 more come and join us. First of all, please welcome founder and chief hustler from Assiduus Global, Dr. Somdutta Singh. How are you? Nice to see you. Have a seat. So, how are you today?
Well, doing pretty well.
Good, excellent. So I want to talk, this is the idea behind this is founders and funders. We've got funder here. Tell me.
A founder and a funder.
A founder and a funder. So tell us a little bit about your journey to getting to funder from founder.
Oh, that's quite the hustle, and there's a reason I put the chief hustler, on my title. So it started with, I was born in a state called Calcutta, a city called Calcutta. Both my parents are doctors. I'm a first-generation entrepreneur, and as life has it, imagine doctor parents having their first child with a cerebrospinal tumor. So yeah, I spent the first 3.5 years of my life on a wheelchair, and I guess I learned hustling at a very young age. Because when you're hearing everybody around you talking about the word disability, talking about you can be a liability, then you change perspectives. Like, okay, maybe the word disability has ability in it. So, but long story short, I spent about the first 12 years of my life in and out of hospitals. So I kind of figured out that being a doctor is not my forte.
Right.
It requires a different kind of dedication and devotion, which I think my parents did a fantastic job of doing. But I would go a lot with my father, to Calcutta Club, which was, a British-founded club at that point in time. And we would go in a very humble ambassador. How many of you remember an ambassador car? Yeah, so that's what my dad had. And all his friends would come in Mercedes and Bentleys. And as you know, the Tatas and the Birlas, the Khaitans of the world are all from Calcutta. So I would ask my dad very curiously, what is that they do that you don't do? And his answer used to be very subtle. They're in business. And that's what I promised myself, that's what I'm going to do one day. I'll be in business. Fast forward a few years, I never invested in a luxury car because I understood the value of money and how it quickly depreciates. With all due respect, I never did that. But I understood the value of investing. So I founded my first company at 23, exited at 25, became a young millionaire in the family. For the first time, Eddie, my father, believed I did something great with my life. There was money in the bank. Became an investor at 25. And some of my other, colleagues who are going to join the stage later on, I've done a lot of co-investing with them. But I have a portfolio about 57 plus investment, and I have a family office that invests in funds as well. But I got bored. I'm like, you know what? Investment alone doesn't just keep it going. So I started my second venture, which was a group of D2C brands using reverse engineering, launching health supplements, beauty product lines. Had a larger exit than my first one, and now I run Assiduus. But the journey, I think the word founder and funder is very interchangeable, right? Means if you're not a wealth creator, you don't know how to be a wealth navigator, and the other way around. So I think entrepreneurs are natural investors, and they understand the value of what it does to create wealth. So yeah, I'm going to take a pause at that and happy to move forward from here.
So tell us what you are investing in. What would you like to be pitched on?
Not for sure valuation-centric companies. I don't believe in that term. I believe in value creation. I run Assiduus, which is the 3rd largest e-commerce distribution supply chain company globally, and we are profitable, Eddie. And I think, profitable since the last 4 years. And Eddie, women are going with money, right? The power of 2 X chromosomes. I think we naturally build the most profitable companies. And so for me, I believe in a company, it doesn't have to be profit right away, but I definitely believe in a company that has a vision of turning profitable. Because if you see the legacy, especially because we are an Indian Global Forum and we're talking about companies that have built legacy in India, where there is the Tatas and the Birlas, the P&L has to look healthy. And you can't build a company with taking only money from investors. So given that I invest, I know that it has to be something which is client-funded, and your biggest advocates are your clients. So Eddie, we were a client-funded company for the first 3 years, then we raised capital, and what we raised went into growth, which multiplied our profits. So for me, a company pitching to me has to have value of that. The second, ideally, the company pitching to me has to have a woman co-founder.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
A very strong gender lens. I love it.
And I'll tell you why. Because there is no creation between the two participants. And in this world of diversity that we constantly talk about, I don't think women need empowerment. That's a very pseudo word. I'm not even a big fan of the word feminism, because men don't talk about masochism. I think you need both. You need equity. And the reason that is super important in a business is because if men are very strategically inclined, women are very good with helping keep the money safe where it belongs and invest in the way where it belongs. So if you have the two perspectives, it's a fantastic win-win. So for me, that kind of plays a very significant role. But most importantly, what matters is if the business has value.
What stage of investments do you make?
We write checks from anywhere between 100K to even $1 million, right? But when we're investing in funds, it's of course a larger check size. But seed is the best bet that we have. I'm an angel investor for many years now. Why I like to take that level of risk? Because somebody took that risk with me too, Eddie. When I started off, I was just 23, somebody gave me my first $500,000. Didn't expect what the return on investment is going to be. And I think when you take that risk, I think founders get a lot of confidence that, there is someone who's going to participate when the return on investment is not the only metric. And I think that is something which I at least look at. But seed to a pre-Series A is our sweet spot.
Interesting. All right, let's bring up our other two founders here. So please do welcome now to the stage Ankita Vashistha, founding and managing partner of StrongHER Ventures. Welcome. How are you? Good. And we've got Sujeet Kumar, founder of Udaan. Thank you very much. Come on down. So, do we have another microphone we can bring up here, or are we going to, or do we only?
They are
you guys have mic. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's stay with that. Let me ask you: do you have a gender lens when you're investing, Ankita?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So maybe I'll just talk about my journey as well. So I've spent the past 15 years in private equity and venture capital, having spent time in UK, US, and India. I've seen the whole kind of cycle of being a fund professional, working for a $2 billion fund focused on the emerging markets, being part of a team managing $2 billion under investment, and then kind of finding my love as an engineer to work with more early stage companies in Asia back in 2011-12. That's when venture capital was really picking up in Asia, and working with homegrown entrepreneurs on tech innovations, launching my program, launching my first fund to look at early stage companies in India, Singapore, US, and then kind of moving on to my second fund, where we were looking at early stage tech companies, but also looking at capital with a purpose. I think someone who had been in the PE industry and then venture capital, I realized that there weren't enough women entrepreneurs, and there weren't enough women decision makers as GPs making those investment decisions. So then I launched Saha Fund, which at that time was the very first venture capital fund to invest in women in tech. And so then took that as the thesis to look at companies and really say that, if we're looking at women leaders, women as powerful consumers, we can really bet on higher returns for our portfolio companies. And now as I build out Fund 3, this is a much more bigger fund looking at US and India, looking at early stage tech companies where gender is one part of the allocation, but we've gone deeper into B2B SaaS, enterprise, AI, climate, and consumer. We now, I think over the past decade, I've invested in 60 plus companies. I have 4 unicorns in my portfolio. I'm one of the first investors in Licious, which is one of India's largest consumer brands. Unifor, which is a conversational AI company, and then 2 of our companies got bought over by unicorns. One is Fiternity to CultFit, and one is MyAlly to Phenom. And majority of my companies have been women-led. And that's what I kind of set out to prove out, that women mean investment, women mean returns, and women mean business, so why not invest in them?
Nice.
There is one sitting right next to her. So I just have to say that Ankita is also an investor in my company, Assiduus. And this is how the ecosystem works. When she, of course, launched she's been a super successful, VC. And when she launched a third, I said, can I put in a small check in yours? Because I know that your return on investment is one of the highest in the ecosystem. But she took a bet on me when, nobody else was. Yeah, I heard a lot of no's when Ankita said, listen, I got your back, and that's what we need.
All right.
Thank you.
Sujeet, tell us a little bit about your story as a funder as well.
Thank you for inviting us here. And I'm associated with IGF from last 3 years, 2 years. I think always it's a different topic, and that excites us. So it's not a mundane, you're talking on the same topic. And given the criticality of funding all across the world, I think that's a great topic. So you can't talk about prescribed way of, hey, in this sector it's working, it's not working. I think it's going through the different kind of evolution. About my journey, I think it's a quick, so from last 18 years, I am part of the startup ecosystems. First, I founded one company in 2005. It was a KPO in India. Then founding team of Flipkart. 8 years I was with the Flipkart, build their capability, heading supply chain business. Left, started Udaan in 2016. Then started a fund with, I think we are GP, but fund manager is Ravi and Sankalp, called Tangling. We have raised two funds and about to raise third one. Personally, as an angel since 2012, I have invested in more than 150 companies. So where to put myself, I'm a founder or funder, but one thing is very clear, builder of the ecosystem. That's what I believe. That's about me.
Do you have a gender lens? How many women founders have you invested in?
I think that's very questions which has to be handled with the care, but point is, I believe potential should not be bounded by male or female. I think it has to be done justice with the potential, like she's saying that I always believe everybody have a strength. Let's say if I say in supply chain logistic, and it's not like army. Earlier the army women were not allowed. Now everywhere they're allowed, am I right? And especially I'm talking about India. So something naturally fits. Let's say D2C brand, beauty, which is growing like crazy in India. They do more justice in comparisons to male counterpart, and they need more capital supports there. In the same way, like tech can't be gender biased. Anybody can create any capability. But let's say infrastructure, construction, I think that's where might be some bias you can see, and it's obvious one, but nothing goes against like, hey, it's male or female.
But how many women founders have you invested in?
Lots of them.
Lots of them.
But definitely it's not like out of 150 personally, might be 80%, 85% male, but it was not designed like that.
Okay. Who here is a founder of a company? We've got a couple here. All right. Who's got a question for my funders up here? Any questions? I'm going to keep asking them, but this is your time. You're allowed to ask questions. Right, we've got one just here.
Thanks. First of all, great panel discussion that we're having. 2.0's Shom question for you. You run a business which is profitable. Starting a business as a woman, although I agree with our friend out here that there never should be a distinction between, what's your gender, because all of us are equally powerful. But I'm sure you would have faced a lot of challenges on the way, and now that you're sitting on the seat where you are funding startups as well, what would be your advice when it comes to running an enterprise which is for the purpose of profit and also business as a purpose for itself? So how are you managing the two, and what's your advice for newcomers as well?
Thank you so much for the question, Kapil. I think you asked me 3 critical things. The first is, the diversity part. And I agree with, what he was talking about and what Ankita is talking about. When I started my journey as an entrepreneur, I never looked at it as a man or a woman thing. I think entrepreneurship is an attitude game. It's got nothing to do with you being a man or a woman. what investors really care about is the value proposition. It's true today that unfortunately, the number of investors that you meet on the other side are men. And most of them have never created a business. That's the sad part. The reason they do not know, Eddie, how to invest in you is because none of them have ever built anything. So the game that we are trying to change, and the three of us...
Is it a blanket statement?
I'm just saying... But I'm saying a lot of them. That's what I said. A lot of them that you meet has never built anything. And then you have, people like him and us. The reason I think we became... Think about it, after you built Flipkart, you started a journey of your own, being a founder. And why we are much more meritorious investors is we have passion and prudence. We have empathy. We have a little bit of compassion because we've been there. It's very hard to hear no, whether it's for a man or a woman, it's the same couple. It's just that the society... I was just in a what do you call it, a panel before this. We were talking about the conditioning in the society is the man has to go earn, the woman has to nurture. The man cannot cry and the woman cries is too weak. The challenge is that. I'm telling you, I've cried, I've heard a lot of no's, even though I've been on the other side and all. Why I wanted to build a profitable business, you asked me the second part, so that I hear less of the no's. When you're funded by your clients and you have a very steady revenue that is coming in and the business is making enough money, and Udaan, by the way, you should know, it was one of my inspiration. You guys were doing B2B and we were doing B2C, and they were one of my inspiration because they're a profitable company, is that you don't have to really, spread your hand out and ask for khairat. You demand. There's a difference. And when you can demand something, the audacity with which you have that conversation, it's equal negotiating, not one paying and the other asking. When I sit in front of an investor and I said, this is what my company should be valued at, is because I'm talking about actual numbers and not a story. Yeah. The last part, when I look at an entrepreneur, I actually look at them with a lens of compassion. It hurts a lot when you're told no again and again, and it hurts a lot when the person sitting on the other side is just playing because it's ego. So one thing that you have to crush is the ego in the investor, and the one thing that you have to appreciate is the tenacity in the entrepreneur. That's it.
All right. It's crushing me when I ask for questions and there's a sea of no's. All right, I see one right there. Yeah.
So what do you reckon? Should we go for the funding as a startup, or when we make the company as a mid-sized company, and then when there is a lot of potential? From funders' point of view, what do you prefer? Startup funding or mid-size company funding?
Yeah, sure.
That's a great question. I think it has to, you have to see when, let's say, in 2021, when capital was cheap, even the idea was dearer. Everybody was funding behind just an idea, and hey, somebody is talking something and they are getting the money. When things changed, then people started seeing the similar kind of idea in a different way. They are saying that no, you have to first prove the idea, go to market strategy, launch the product, unit economics. So it depends when. So in current time frame, if somebody is just coming with the idea, I don't think so any takers are there. Now you have to show more tenacity and discipline, how you are spending your money, showing your skin in the game, how big the potential, but unit economics makes more sense in the current time frame. So that attracts more funder.
Yeah.
So I think that's what time depends. Like when it's high, capital cheap, then you are getting like lots of people are investing into your idea. But now I think that's not the truth. So it depends on the content. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add on, right, I think it depends, of course, on what business you're creating, what you're doing. So even though I'm an early stage investor, pre-seed to Series A, the definition of pre-seed has matured, right?
Yeah.
Like I used to say like 2 years ago when capital was cheap, anyone who was a D2C founder and had a pitch book got funded.
Yeah, as an example, let's say some of the company, if you'll see, they have been valued, and in current scenario in 2021, which is almost like 10 years ahead of their valuations.
Yeah.
So if you'll see, those companies for the 10 years will going to be flat. Yeah, and it will be like no motivation for the employee, for the founders, for the investors. So that's the bad aspects of it.
Yeah, I mean, so even for an early stage fund, people ask for post-pilot, post-MVP, post-revenue. Like, so for consumer companies, for example, it was fine if you were doing 25 to 50 lakhs of revenue and then you would get funded.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, some of the leading funds are saying, hey, you need to reach 1 crore monthly revenue and then we'll look at you, right? So the ecosystem is also matured. Of course, capital is also very conservative, or it's, it's very dear in that sense. So I think things change. But yeah, definitely, I think post-revenue, post-pilot is more appreciated as a funder.
One of the things, because he talked about unit economics, I think the margins make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm a heavy investor in D2C brands, right? Because I understand that space. But if they're coming and saying that their cost of production is higher than the margins that they're making, then that's not a business you want to invest in. The reason the D2C boom has happened and the D2C fall has happened, and also the aggregators has come in and have died. And I'll pick some examples because one of them is my investor. Everybody knows Thrasio. Have you heard of the company Thrasio?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the founder of Thrasio is an investor in my company. He's a very good family friend. He only told me one thing: Shom, learn from the mistakes I have made. I made my money, but I made mistakes. Went too soon to accelerate. It's the slow and steady that wins the race, not the fast and furious. You burn out. Second thing he said, if you raise capital too early, you're going to give away too much. And remember, the founder is as good as the control they have on the company. The third thing he said is there are too many replicas that want to replicate fast valuation. There's less than 0.1% that actually survives it. So the reason there were a lot of replicas of Thrasio that came in India and they're nowhere to be seen is because it doesn't work. Don't forget the culture and the country that you're building and replicating the company in. You can't take a US idea and create it in India. It doesn't work like that. And that's something that's very important. So when you ask for money, ensure that you're not saying, I'm like the Thrasio. You're talking about what you're actually building and sustaining for. That's very important.
Very brief question.
Yeah. So what we understood is basically in the current scenario, you must have a proven product or services, and there must be a strong visibility. And to really expand, we need fund. So now one problem that even I face, I don't want to say we, is basically the valuation of the company. So what are the parameters with which, I'm sure you may also have gone through, evaluating your company.
Okay, so questions around valuation. Yeah. Right, quickly.
Like I said, that valuation is also the byproduct of the situation you are in. In the stress scenario, if you'll ask me, there is a math going on. If you're a D2C brand, offline, online, enabled by online, I think anything between 3 to 5 times. Let's say that's good. Nobody says that. But when in 2021, it can be like 20 times. So there are no math. Depends on how dear are the capital and how many takers are there. So if you have a good assets, might be you can control 5 times in current scenario. If you'll hold yourself for 2 years, the same math can go up to like 8 times, 9 times. But the madness is not good for the ecosystem. It demotivates entrepreneurs. It demotivates every element of the ecosystem. Might be it's in that window, it looks like I'm a winner, but you are a loser.
I'm a student of economics and I want to say something, right? Which is the realistic part of how math is done. Well, the CFO of the VC fund is going to actually value you in that. Otherwise, you'll become a unicorn and you'll die a unicorn also very soon. The math is very simple. If you are a GMV company, which is your gross value that you're generating for the company, is also your net revenue, okay? Then it's on the margin. It's on the unit economics, like he highlighted. The second, if your GMV and your net revenue are different, which means your GMV, actually, you take a percentage of your GMV as your net revenue, right? Then the direct and the indirect cost cannot be more than 80% of the total expenses.
And I just wanted to add,
briefly.
I think as a business, one should not talk about GMV. There is nothing called GMV.
No, I'm just, because
it's a misleading thing.
This is something which, it happens, So as two founders, we will find it misleading, but the truth is, bank mein balance kitna hai, right? The actual valuation of the company is the profitability path. and the market opportunity. If the TAM is super strong and the service obtainable market is a super strong, which means for the next 10 years you have headway, then the valuation can be 5 to 10x.
Unfortunately, we're out of time now, but I'm going to encourage you guys to go take this conversation over a nice cup of masala chai and write you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause for my founders and funders panel.
Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.